It's never too late.
Yes.
We're a soul in human form. We choose this life, and lately I've been tuning in a little bit to timelessness. All our previous lives, our past lives, and our future lives, we're kind of living them simultaneously. As you get older, you have all these experiences backing you up, and we're never really done. We are never really finished. And look how long people are working today. Well into their 70s. Many people, because we have our health. I'm 64. And, when I remember when I was 62, that year I was sort of, am I going to be retiring? Now it's like, I have no idea what the future holds. And you don't have to know because you make your choices in the moment. Be in alignment. You must heal what's keeping you out of alignment. It's about being open and allowing and surrendering. It might be that you're 80 years old and you are designed right now to be the best grandmother to kids who don't have grandmothers. It might be that you're meant to be the best neighbor and create a community that didn't exist before. It's not just about our work that we get paid for. It's how we do the work, how we are being in the world. So I am totally open to what else is in store for me.
Welcome to the Empress Lioness, a sacred space where the spirit roars and the soul remembers everything. In each episode, we sit with visionaries, founders, creators, and healers. I'm your host, Karen Mitchell. Good afternoon and welcome back to another episode of the Empress Lioness podcast, the sacred space where we return to our thrones, reclaim our voices, and rise in radical self-trust. Today, I am calling in the women who know they are meant for more, but feel like something unseen has been holding them back. And if you've ever sensed that your power was buried under layers of doubt, grief, or old stories, this episode is for you. Our guest today is a healer, a master healer, and a spiritual architect of change. Ms. Cheryl Stelte is a master energy healer, best-selling author, and the force behind the Star of Divine Light Institute. She's helped countless women find clarity, shift trauma, and step into their most authentic power. She is not here to motivate you. She's here to activate you. Welcome, Ms. Cheryl.
Oh, I am just overjoyed to be here, Karen. Thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to this.
Well, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to join us. Let me just tell you how excited I am to have ran across you and reading up, looking at your website. And I am really excited about this because this is the message that I've been trying to get across to a lot of my listeners so that they can get their power back. It starts with a healing process. So we're going to jump right in. I'm going to ask you a lot of nice questions so that our listeners could get a really good idea of how they can start the journey of healing and what it entails. So, Ms. Cheryl, your work speaks to women who feel stuck, even after trying everything. What do you believe keeps so many powerful women in a place of energetic stagnancy?
It's our conditioning. We are all so conditioned to be who we are not. We are so conditioned to fit in, to live up to the standards, to be put into boxes. And it just blows me away. And it blows me away how that just becomes more and more evident to me lately. Whoa, conditioning. And so it's learned. It's in our neural pathways, in our brains, it's in our bodies, it's in our psyches, it's in our energy, it's in the field, and it's in the collective. And when you talked about, like in your introduction, and you said, let's return to our thrones, whoa, that hit me because it's about the why. Why do you want to heal? Why do you want to become empowered? And in my third book, it was sort of prompted by an advanced program I was doing for my more advanced students who had worked with me for a while. And there's a whole section on taking your throne, on returning
Oh,
to your throne, and what that is metaphorically, what that
right.
is energetically, and it really is the why we do it is to fulfill our soul's mission, purpose. And purpose is not about doing the thing, it's about becoming. So we live
Like
for
that.
purpose. And I feel like I've gone off on a tangent.
Oh, no, no, listen, we're just gonna let this go, and because whatever you need to say, the spirit is leading you to say it because someone out there needs to hear it. And on this podcast, we always go off, so don't even worry about it. But I
Perfect.
do, I do want to ask you this because I know you say healing happens when you clear the subconscious. So can you share a moment in your own journey when this became personal and real for you?
Oh, there are, you know, 1,000, 100,000 moments when this became personal. It's actually become a lifestyle. It's become a daily routine. Not that I clear anything every day, but it began early on when I first discovered meditation through an encounter with my deceased brother's spirit, and a friend spoke to me through him to start meditating. But I didn't know I would learn very early on. My body started to breathe with a very long, full breath. And unknowingly, that's how we access our subconscious. Yes, we can try hypnotherapy, but the clearing, what I learned later on after I'd been doing this for years, for a couple decades actually, almost 20 years, was the science of it. Because when we breathe with the lower abdomen with a long full breath, it changes our brain function. So when we're all sitting here, you're listening at home, Karen and I are chatting, we're breathing with the brainstem, the medulla oblongata, the back part of the brain. And as soon as we engage the abdominal muscles in the lower abdomen, it changes the brain function to the frontal lobal brain. That's now where we're breathing. And it frees up the back of the brain, which helps us access the right brain, the subconscious. And so I started doing this, and all these repressed emotions started coming up, and physical sensations. And I started to have these very cathartic energy healing sessions on my own, not planned. You know, I went and did one course on meditation, and then I was very soon introduced to shamanism, but my shamanic practices were always separate from meditation. And I, you know, for years I saw the two as being very different. And I started healing myself, and my life started to change. The people in my life shifted, my work shifted. As a single mom with two kids, I ended up going back to school full time to become an interior designer. And I started my own spiritual interior design business. And so,
Wow.
and it continues on today. I never thought I would be doing this work. And so it's really this feeling that we have when we are feeling dissatisfied, and whatever we've accomplished is no longer, it doesn't have that same sense of fulfillment. We may have
Yeah.
accomplished a great deal in the eyes of many, or even with ourselves, and whatever we used before to help us feel more fulfilled isn't working. So we kind of start to feel lost and stuck. We know we're meant for more, but we have no idea what it is.
You know what? That's a really important point that I want to point out because a lot of people don't even realize when they go through that phase what it means and what to do next. I think that I like to call that the acknowledgement, acknowledging that you're meant for something greater, and now what do you do? But going back to your breathing, can you show us how that's done? Because I do
Yes.
a lot of meditation and I would love to see how that is done.
Yes, absolutely. And so I'll go through, maybe what I'll do is describe what I call my ACE method. And ACE, as in an ace of spades, A is for access, C is for clear, and E is for empowerment. And we're going to include, if it's okay with you, Karen, a link to some free meditations so you
Yes.
can access this right away. So we'll put that in the show notes. So why we're doing it is because science has now proven that trauma, our wounding, is encoded in the right side of the brain, in the subconscious, through physical sensations and emotions. So if you're worried about remembering things from the past, don't worry, because any memories are always fragmented. If you remember anything, those are only pieces, and that's the most superficial layer. It's the physical sensations, how the body holds the trauma, holds the wounding, and the deepest layer are the emotions. So that's why we're doing this. And it can feel like a bit of a workout in the beginning. So I invite you, everyone, Karen, to put your hand on your lower abdomen with your thumb at the level of your navel. And relax your body, relax your shoulders, sit nice and straight with your feet flat on the floor. It's actually not beneficial for this type of meditation to sit cross-legged, which I
Well,
had
let me
mastered at one point in my life, but have gone back to feet firmly on the floor because
so let me get my feet planted on the floor.
so you can be in your throne. To add
Oh,
more,
yes.
be in your throne. You don't sit in your, you never saw the queen or the king sitting cross-legged in their throne. No,
I
they're
know.
owning who they are, feet attached to the earth. Anyway, so let's start with an exhale. You have your hand there and squeeze your belly and expel all the air. And then you inhale, all the focus in the lower abdomen. Notice if you want to breathe with your chest or your shoulders, and you relax your shoulders and your chest. You don't need to breathe there. So you inhale fully, and you can count seconds, 6 or 8 seconds in, 6 or 8 seconds out.
Do I need to breathe out my mouth?
Nose breathing is ideal.
Okay.
Nose
Gotcha.
breathing is ideal. That keeps you down in your body. So this, as soon as we start doing this, and it may feel like a workout in the beginning, you start to access your subconscious. And it's good to set an intention. Think of anything current in your life that's annoying you or has upset you or you're worried about, and you think about that. And you just bring that into your belly. You can bring it into your root chakra. It's very beneficial to place your eyes there. So I'm just going to give you a quick, because of our limited time. So once you start to tune into whatever's going on there, you start to feel your emotions. You can even ask yourself, how do I feel about this? Might be anger, could be fear. And then you do what I call follow the emotional thread. So you go down into the layers, know that there's layers of emotions going deeper and deeper, and then you follow those emotions to when they first began in early childhood. I find that our greatest traumas that are getting in the way are pre-age 3. I was taught it's like pre-age 10, pre-age 7, pre-age 5. I'm like, no. It's pre-age 3, and so much even happens in the womb. A lot of the women and men these days, I'm getting men, come to see me, and it's in the womb. So then we move from A is for access, we're accessing what's going on, and then C is for clear. So the clearing is once we access the deepest emotion currently, we can breathe through it. And the breathing through it releases it. And so how does that happen? So I like to give a visual example. Your wounds are like a black ball. It's like a clog in a plumbing pipe. And we are beings of light. Kirlian photography has proven decades ago that we are made of light. And so we have flow, we're electric beings, and we have all these energetic pathways, and the chakras are the energy centers. And I've been doing chakra readings for years. So I see in people where their blocks are, and I see them as black. It's usually like a black ball or a black shape. And then I see where their light is, what their superpowers are, where the energy is flowing well. And I always see that as light. So you can imagine that that's in there. And so as soon as you breathe with your lower abdomen, you start to dissipate that energy and allow yourself to feel the full intensity of it. Well, how intense is this? And if and this is a very safe method, but let's say you've had a lot of trauma and you haven't done that much work on it and you get triggered, it's okay. You can stop at any time, open your eyes, focus on something in the room, because you don't want to go to the top of the bell curve. You don't want to get hugely triggered so it's unmanageable. You need to feel safe. So then you can go back in and you clear it as the adult, and then you go back. You just ask your subconscious, when did this first begin? And then your subconscious will take you back to when it first began, and you'll get a sense of your age. And remember, if and when you have memories, you can acknowledge them. Oh, okay. If you're going to ask a question, don't ask for more information or why did this happen. Just say, how did I feel? Because that's the deepest layer. I'm all about going deep. So many of my clients say, Cheryl, nobody goes deeper than you. And so you want to clear it at the root. So the clear is breathing through it. And then we're not done. Then we get to move into the E is for empowerment. So now we've cleared this dark energy that was stuck. You've released it. And you don't have to stay with it until it's completely gone. It's sort of like a clog in a plumbing pipe. The plumber will come and poke at it with his or her snake. And it's just enough to get it moving, and it'll wash away, which creates space. It creates flow. And the responsible thing to do is empower yourselves to make the most of that space that you've created now in your subconscious. So the way we do that is we reparent. There's sort of a link between the clearing and the empowerment, where we reparent our younger selves. And we always want to disarm the younger self. And I feel that some of the deepest emotions are confusion, because little 2-year-olds can't make sense of the trauma that's happened. They're so confused. It's a trauma response. Shame, so many of the deeper emotions. And so you can say things like, it wasn't your fault. You did nothing wrong. You didn't deserve what happened. You didn't deserve. Helps disarm at a deep level. And then you love that little one up. So you become your adult self, and you reparent your younger self with all the love and tell them everything that they need to hear. And then the important piece in the empowerment is then you become your younger self again, and you receive all this new energy with light and with love. So you're reprogramming. Your reprogramming, and science has also proven that we can reprogram our brains through the brain's neuroplasticity. And you turn around and you're different. There's no mindset work required. It helps to integrate by repeating what you discovered about who you truly are. This is how you discover the truth of your being. This is how you get clarity on how to move forward in your life. You start to get the clarity around purpose. So again, it's the ACE method. A is for access, C is for clear, and E is for empower.
That is awesome and so beautiful, because myself, I've been going through a lot of my childhood trauma and going through my healing journey. I ended up doing ayahuasca, which is a little bit differently. But I love this method because it is something that I can continue in my daily practice versus just plain old meditation. But Ms. Cheryl, you've built an entire certification program, and spiritual institute. What called you to create these, and what transformation do your students often experience?
Well, it's part of the work that I do is my own experience is that I never set the goal to start a spiritual institute, Star of Divine Light Institute. That was never a goal. I never planned on doing this work full time. I thought, I'll always do it as a sort of a side hustle, my side gig. So none of this was planned. And then it was when I was teaching the Azarius Energy Healing Certification Program, it was actually the first time I taught it, it had a different name. And one of my clients said near the end of the program, I've been telling all these people about it, and they say, who's doing this? What's the name of it? And it was this long-winded name. I can't even remember what it was. It was like 8 words for the name of the healing modality. And she said, well, what school is this in? And I didn't have a school. I had my website, Cheryl Stelte. That was it. And I just tuned into her, and I really got the guidance that you need to name this, and it needs to be an institute that people can belong to. And as soon as I tuned into that, I got the name Azarius, and it's the Azarius Energy Healing Certification Program, or it was a word that kind of sounded like that, and I'm like, whoa. And as part of what we do, we merge with Archangel Raphael, the great healing archangel. Well, then I discovered there's a story about Archangel Raphael coming to Earth being disguised as Azarius. And Azarius helped this guy Tobias, etc. And I went, whoa, that is the name of this healing modality, because we have the capacity to be anything and everything, because we are all one. And so it's practicing being Archangel Raphael on the earth. So that's how that came about. And then there's an old Sufi prayer that has the word Star of Divine Light in it, that has always moved me into the heights of joy and love and even ecstasy. And as soon as I asked, what's the name of this school or institute, it came immediately. And all that happened in like less than 5 minutes. So
all on a phone conversation?
Well, after I got off the phone, I said, okay, let me reflect on it, let me tune in, because I respect that God or source, a creator, speaks through other people all the time to us. So I respect that. Cheryl Stelte, as a human being, was a little uncomfortable with this, because I was against having a spiritual school, because my experience of some spiritual schools started out great, but ended, once I got not so great. I'll just say that. So I thought, I'm never going to do that. And I remember my husband saying, you're going to start a spiritual school one day. I'm like, no way. I will always just be Cheryl Stelte. So I am one who has been in resistance multiple times, but when the divine speaks, I do listen.
Yeah,
at least not, at least eventually. And that was it, And what happens is the program escalates, it evolves with each group, because I'm still forever evolving. So the program, of course, everything shifts, because we're never the same, and it just fills me up to teach that. It's sort of, yeah.
Awesome. So I know many of our listeners are women in their midlife, stepping into their own chapter, their own power. I'm one of those women. So what do you say to the woman who thinks it might be too late for her to begin again the way that you did?
It's never too late. The thing is, we're a soul in human form. We choose this life. And lately I've been tuning in a little bit to timelessness. So the soul continues on, and we are, all our previous lives, our past lives, and our future lives, we're kind of living them simultaneously. And if you think of it this way, as you get older, you have all these experiences backing you up, and we're never really done. We are never really finished. And look how long people are working today. Well into their 70s, many people, because we have our health. We never used to have our health. I'm 64. And, I remember when I was 62, and that year I was sort of, am I going to be retiring? Like, what am I going to, now it's like, I have no idea what the future holds. And you don't have to know, because you make your choices in the moment. Be in alignment. And to be in alignment, you must heal what's keeping you out of alignment. And then it all comes. And so it's about being open and allowing and surrendering to. It does not matter how old you are. It might be that you're 80 years old and you are designed right now to be the best grandmother to kids who don't have grandmothers. It might be that you're meant to be the best neighbor and create a community that didn't exist before. It's not just about our work that we get paid for. It's how we do the work, how we are being in the world. And so I am totally open to what else is in store for me.
Too. Totally open. And that's why I started this platform. That's why I started my nonprofit, because I wanted to, once I got healed and started my healing journey, I wanted to empower other women. Now, keep in mind, I've been doing that for a very, very long time before I was Karen Mitchell. But I find that there are so many women out there that are broken, so many that are traumatized and walking that path that I did. And I wanted them to find or have a community where they can go through the healing process together. So I love that aspect. And you told me that you had a special story about an Egyptian princess, isn't it? Or a goddess, an Egyptian goddess. Because I will tell you, Miss Cheryl, I believe that I am an Egyptian goddess. I just don't know which one I am, but I do. I told my husband, I think I am. I just don't know which one. And so I want to hear this story.
Goosebumps head to toe. I have goosebumps head to toe. With respect to empowerment, the first time that I discovered that I'm here to empower other women, to help them become empowered, was through my spiritual interior design business. I started as a one-woman show, and then I hired a part-time assistant, and then she became full-time. Long and the short of it, I ended up with 8 women working for me who I trained in multiple skills. I taught them how to become professional painters, and I taught them how to sew. I had a workroom, and I did custom draperies and bedding, and we installed blinds, and so it was about empowering these women who had very little, if any, skills, and to give them something that they could always find work in. So I just wanted to say that I believe, and so I love your story. And if the listeners at home, you may connect with Karen and keep listening to this podcast because you feel the same way. You know, it's about empowering, and that can take on many guises, right? So the Egyptian goddess, this is a story I have never shared, and I'm so excited to share this because as soon as I found your podcast and the lioness, I was like, whoa, this is so for me. Okay. So this was a few years ago. I think it's coming up to 3 years ago. And over the years, I've often done a week-long retreat by myself for myself. So this winter, my husband went and stayed at our apartment in Denver, and I'm up at our place in the mountains. And I do this retreat, and I get the guidance that I need to do a dismemberment journey. So a dismemberment journey is a shamanic practice where you're decapitated, where you're ripped apart, or you're drowned, or something where you lose all form. And then you're sort of reborn. You're reborn. So I've done this. I do it whenever I'm guided to, which is maybe every 5 years or so. Not that often, but I learned it, over 30 years ago. So I'm laying on the floor and I'm doing this. And I think I was burned at the stake. So all of me was gone. There was no Cheryl left. And then who shows up but Cleopatra? And Cleopatra is standing beside me on the right, and she's holding the Ankh symbol. The Ankh symbol that's shaped like sort of an upside down teardrop in the lines that go out. I don't remember what the Ankh symbol means, but she holds it, puts it down over top of my heart on my physical body where I'm laying, but there's no me there. And she's holding it there and holding it there. And then there's all this light. And just to save time, I was suddenly shown a female lion, and I became the lion. And so I just think, oh, that's a power animal I've worked with in the past. And I was shown that I was shown the cobra on my forehead and this big round sun disk on top of my head. And then I'm sitting in a throne. I'm like, whoa, what is this about? I'm not that connected to Egypt. What? I couldn't get it. And then I get the message, Google search this. And I suddenly become this goddess with a lion face. I'm reborn into this. I'm like, whoa. So of course I'm on retreat. I'm not online, so I have to go and, boot up my computer and everything. And I enter all the words. And then I find this goddess, Sekhmet. She's the lioness goddess, and she's the master healer. She's the master of healing. And it's kind of a gruesome story about her. I think her father was angry with all the subjects. He was a king, and she was killing all these people, and she just became bloodthirsty. And then they fed her some kind of a beer, etc. And anyway, she was transformed into being a loving healer, and that she's the most powerful healer in Egyptian lore. And so I'm so connected to Sekhmet, and I just wonder how you and your audience might connect with her.
I'm sorry. I really love that story. I resonate with that story so much. That's why I'm laughing so hard, just the way that you described it. And honestly, let me tell you, I don't even know how the Empress Lioness was born, but when I did ayahuasca, I always considered myself to have a dragon. And I think from my trauma as a kid growing to an adult, this dragon has gotten bigger and bigger. And the only thing that this dragon does is destroy everything in its path, because it's protecting me. It's making sure that no other man takes advantage of me. No one else is able to give me more trauma in my life. And it's a protecting dragon. And when I did ayahuasca, I had no idea why I was doing it. I couldn't pronounce the word, but they had me go to the jungles of Peru. I was deep in the jungle. And I stayed there for a couple of days, and I did the ceremony, went through the process, and I woke up and I was crying because I realized something had happened to my dragon. And I heard the voice tell me, you don't need a dragon anymore. You have married your lion king. He doesn't need a dragon. He needs a lioness. So therefore, it transformed me spiritually. I started to face my trauma, tear those walls down, start rebuilding, and telling myself, Karen, it's not your fault. It's okay. You're a kid. Anything that happened to you was not your fault. But I owned a lot of that responsibility as an adult. And now here we are on this healing journey. When I tell you, Miss Cheryl, it resonated with me so much. It really did. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. Everything aligns. And I believe that when we start healing, we aligned.
Yes. And I have to say, I had a dragon too. I had a dragon years ago, and many of my clients end up with a dragon, especially in group. It'll be like somebody gets a dragon, and so I help them embody the dragon and become the dragon, even, and work with the dragon. And then you're right, this is what happens. Eventually we don't need the dragon. And it's always a big transformation to go into empowerment. So then you bringing the lioness in, all of a sudden you have this, and I invite you to merge with her. It's a fabulous practice. And if you want a meditation on that, I should include that in the show notes. If anybody wants to merge with their lioness or any other, I'm happy to put that in. The other thing is that, so then I come on the show with Sekhmet, right? And so this is the universe holding you and lifting you up. It's not about me. It's you're attracting what you're ready for. And that's what all you listeners at home will start to do when you do the deep healing. And the deeper you go, the faster and more fully you grow and evolve, and then you attract to yourself what you need.
That is so awesome and so very true. So where can our listeners learn more, work with you, or connect with any upcoming offerings that you have?
Well, the number one way is click on that link for the powerful meditations. I have helped so many women transform who, I have to say, their intention initially, they get to where they wanted to be, but it's always a surprise. They could never imagine it. But things like, one woman almost doubled her income, and she already was well into six figures. I was like, wow, you didn't tell me that. She connected with me. She came on one of my retreats. Anyway, businesses change, but relationships change. So anyway, start with the meditations. If you think you just want to talk with me, I've included the link callwithcheryl.com. You can enter that into Google right now, callwithcheryl.com. If you want to call. And then there's my website. You'll find lots of information on there, and my social media links. But it really is, if you feel a connection, start with the meditations, because you get transmission, and make that commitment to yourself. Take the action. Start doing the work.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ms. Cheryl, your presence today has been healing, like a healing transmission on its own. And you reminded all of us that healing is not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you've always been. So for every woman listening, your power is not outside of you. It's encoded in your soul, waiting for your permission to rise. Let this be the moment you say, and Cheryl, here at the Empress Lioness podcast, we always close with truth. So women, let this be the moment that you say yes. The throne within you has never been empty. You were always sitting in it. So what are you going to do about it? Thank you for sharing the podcast space with me, Ms. Cheryl. I thank you and I send you love and light.
Thank you, Karen. It's such an honor, truly, to be in your energy.
Thank you. I'm your host, Karen Mitchell.